to EcoLogic for the month of November, beautiful time of the year in Louisiana. And we're fortunate to have with us Tom Beard and Matt Roth, both of whom work in the field of biological remediation involving waste from many sources, municipal, industrial waste, but they work on these issues all over. And I'll let Tom share his history in that field, and then Matt can. They're both natives of Lafayette. Tom's is a veteran in the Marine Corps, so share with us, Tom, your history in this field of environmental cleanup.
Thanks, Harold. Well, after 30 years in corporate America, working for other people, we started our own company, focusing on bio-treatment of wastewaters, of lagoons, and other treatment systems. We teamed up with Environmental Associates of Louisiana, Matt Roth. They developed a superior microbe that we use in our process and our cleanups, and quite successful in the results that we're producing. We work with because
and you're located in Hot Springs, Arkansas, so
yes, sir.
A lot of your effort involves smaller municipalities in dealing with their aeration ponds, waste ponds, and so forth.
Arkansas is rural. We're very proud of the all the state parks that we have up there and all the lakes, etc., just like we are in Louisiana. So we're treating a lot of packaged plants. All the school systems that are outside the city limits, they all have their own individual treatment plants. And then there's just hundreds of small communities that have less than 1,000 people, and they're charged with cleaning up all the sewage that they produce. Of course, they all have the same challenges that developing.
A lot of these communities just basically have aeration ponds, and one pond overflows into another, and then finally ends up in a receiving water hole.
About 1983, 84, the state mandated that all the communities build lagoons, and they started pumping into lagoons. And right now, the lagoons are filled. Most of them are being remediated or pumped out and dredged. So we're working with developing.
So they gradually fill with solids, and your
Yeah.
process can, for a lot less money than pumping it all out, extend the life of these things. Am I correct in that?
That's correct. To pump out an acre can cost up to $500,000. And even though it's land applied, which is good technology, it's still a lot of money and strain on a small community. So we're using bioaugmentation and a superior microbe like SuperRx that Matt's company developed to actually put aeration in, put the microbes in, and reduce the sludge naturally.
Wow.
Matt, want to expand on that a little bit?
Yeah, my name's Matt Roth. I'm with Environmental Associates of Louisiana, and like Harold said, I'm from Lafayette, Louisiana. Went to Lafayette High, graduated from USL in finance, and my background is I came up through the finance department and stuff, and probably around '91 got into operations of maintaining wastewater treatment plants, packaging plants, a lot of it offshore. There's a law. If you have over 10 men on a vessel, a rig, or a platform, you're supposed to have a wastewater treatment plant treating the waste in the state waters. So
all you larger crew boats and all that all have these systems.
Yep. Supposed to have it, and so that's where we cut our teeth, and then we sort of grew into private and smaller subdivisions, and then in about 1992. We signed a research agreement with Louisiana State University, LSU's Environmental and Science and Microbiology Department. And I spent 2 years working with their professors over there and their student teachers as far as trying to learn how to grow microbes that could clean some of the waste that ends up in the waterways of Louisiana. And so that sort of brings us to fruition where
essentially dealing with organic chemicals.
Organic waste.
Yeah, organic waste.
Yeah, so that's
oil
that's
derivatives and all that.
That's
Diesel
right.
fuel.
Diesel, oil.
Yeah.
And because where we're located, we have plenty of that, that type of contamination where we're doing all field cleanups where there's hydrocarbon contamination. And but probably 70% of our business is sewage treatment, whether it's from a packaging plant, municipality, private neighborhood, or just septic tanks and residential.
Wow. And share with us the history of developing the product you use, working with LSU, and I know often universities are not dealing with marketing and finance and economics, and so you might share with us how you brought that into reality as a meaningful, I guess, approach to solving some of these problems.
Yeah, so we were, when we were with LSU, by the time we would get a project through the university, most of the companies had already tried all of the commercial viable treatment systems. And so we were getting some really bad stuff. And so every time we would bring it to the lab first, treat it with microbes, and we'd bring in specific microbes for specific waste. And we would always have really good results in the lab. Sometimes when you bring it to the field, you don't get the same quality of treatment. And then sometimes time and other factors come in as far as being economically viable. So that's when we sort of focused our attention on hydrocarbon and sewage treatment. And we knew those were both organic waste streams. And our microbes, we developed these microbe. We brought 3 microbes together that are, each has their own purpose and very powerful. And so that's the base of all the products we use. We have one baseline, and then we'll adapt off of that. But for sewage treatment and hydrocarbons, we have a product that can help clean the waste out of it.
So you might share with us, this comes in a powder form that you can mix with water and introduce into the system. Is that the steps you take?
We do. We grow it in a liquid. We grow it. We start every Friday. We start with vats of liquid, and on Tuesday it's a 5-day process. And on Tuesday the liquid's ready. We dry it, and we use a bed of cornmeal, and we dry the liquid microbes on the cornmeal, mainly for shipping purposes. Just shipping liquid is really is really tough. It's really very heavy. So we'll dry it on a bed of cornmeal. We box it up in 25-pound boxes, and we usually ship out between 500 and 1,000 pounds a week. It's just a continuous flow. Tomorrow morning, our lab will be boxing up everything that they grew last week, and then they'll be shipping out. And we try to keep it fresh. We guarantee it for about a year, or we guarantee it for a year. It's got a shelf life a lot longer than that, but for some of our local clients, where sometimes we'll just bring the base liquid to us because we can drive it.
Yeah.
So when I leave on Friday to head back up to Arkansas with 1,000 pounds of microbes, we distribute them throughout the school systems and all the other package plants. We feel really good that there's not going to be any, they'll stay in good shape until they're ready to use. And most of the applications are once a month. It's very simple to apply to a wastewater plant.
And we've got liquid, we've got powder, we've got dissolvable bags where you can drop it into your commode where it goes down in there, or you can.
So you can use this for individual home units like we have in.
Even septic systems.
For sure.
If you have a septic tank, you own a septic
Correct.
tank, this is something that will aid the actions that's taking place naturally in a septic tank.
For sure.
But it
Yeah.
enhances that. Yeah.
We do a lot of work in Mexico and South and Central America, and unfortunately for those guys, a lot of the places they don't have commercial sewage treatment. So whatever happens, sometimes they'll have a septic tank in their backyard. A lot of times it's just a ditch.
Yeah.
So we're dealing with selling to the communities over there, where they are distributing these 1-ounce packs of microbes, where they drop it into the toilet, and the microbes continue to travel with the waste.
With the waste.
And so
Wow.
it's not the best form of treatment. It's not like an aerated sewage treatment plant,
Yeah.
but it's 70% better than what they're doing, just dumping waste into there. And look, a lot of Mexico revenue is generated off of tourism. So you don't have blue water, you got problems down there. So
Yeah, wow. That's so neat that we deal with. So your products are going internationally. They're going all over the country, so to speak.
we do. And then Tom has really brought us in into the agricultural field, being from Arkansas and some of these
So you're
companies
dealing
up
with
there.
chicken
Chicken
ponds
farms,
and
poultry,
pig farms.
pig farms,
Mhm.
wow.
Yeah, the largest producers of poultry are located up in Arkansas, as well as swine. And although they don't have any swine farms in Arkansas, Oklahoma, Texas, Missouri, Mississippi. So yeah, and what's nice is the same things that plague the sewage treatment systems that cause the most mortality on microbes, that cause the most stress to the systems. The products that they have make it easier for us to treat those chicken farms that have high numbers of quaternary ammonium compounds and bleaches and other things that go down the tube, and sterilize a wastewater plant from a poultry plant, a kill plant, or a cook plant.
Wow.
And our microbe treatment has a really good, it's got a great success rate. It even pays for itself. So.
Wow, so it has enormous environmental impact in water quality downstream of any of these things, so.
Well, that's the big project that we look at every day and see how we can take a bit in pieces and make it better. But the dead zone in the Gulf of Mexico, it's a derivative of phosphorus and nitrogen being dumped into the Mississippi River from either agriculture fields, sewage treatment plants, or industrial wastewater plants. And so,
Or a combination of all.
it's a combination of all three. So one of the things our product does is in the presence of a lack of oxygen, it will use up the nitrogen for the microbes to reproduce.
Wow.
So then it gets rid of the nitrogen from the wastewater stream from going out into the rivers and waterways, and then the phosphorus. One of the microbes we have has a settling agent, and it causes the solids to settle in these wastewater plants.
So that clarifies the water.
Clarifies the water, and the
Drops out the
phosphorus
phosphorus.
drops into the solids. So then we can remove the sludge from the wastewater plant, and get it out of the discharge from going down into the rivers, Gulf of Mexico, dead zone. So
Wow.
that's the big picture. The little picture is, hey, we're gonna stop this guy's wastewater treatment plant from stinking. We're gonna improve the discharge. We're gonna reduce the fecal coliform settling. But the big picture is nitrogen and phosphorus going into the rivers and the dead
And
zone.
they end up in the dead zone.
And Matt touched on odor. Some of the communities we work with, some pretty large ones, their largest complaint is odor. They're treating their sewage and we help them with that, but just the odor issues alone bring us out. Again, that's aeration and microbes.
Right.
Yep.
And we treat a lot of lift stations and wet wells to eliminate odors. And at the same time, we knock out ammonia and nitrogen.
And always, I guess, available sunlight, temperature, all of this has an impact on what you're doing. You can't work the pond if it's frozen.
No, we treated a pond 3 weeks ago, about a 3-acre pond up in Arkansas, and it was 28 degrees when we started. But we did, within 2 days, we knocked their ammonia levels down to 0. They hadn't seen 0, but they were down to
Wow.
0. And again, these are 1980 built sludge lagoons that are chock full of millions of gallons of sludge that'll have to, they got to spend a lot of diesel fuel to pump it out.
So you accelerate the decomposition
Correct.
of the sludge.
That's right.
Yeah.
And we're hoping that we'll extend that remediation or delay that remediation for 5-10 years before they have to do it again. Let our microbes and our process digest.
Share with me, like you deal with a 2-3 acre pond. How does your process compare in cost of removal of sludge and landfilling it somewhere else? I assume that's what they have to do with it.
Yeah, there's different markets and different service companies, but we've seen small 1.5 acre ponds that could go as much as $250,000 for a 10-foot deep lagoon, and as high as $1 million for 3 or 5 acre.
Transportation.
Well, you got
is so
it's
expensive.
transportation.
That's
Yeah,
right.
it's
100%.
liquid, and then you go to a landfill. Normally, you have to dewater it to 20-25% solid. So that means energy used to do that, and so your cost is astronomical.
That's right.
Most of the
And if
Most
the
of
cost
the
is too high, they don't do anything.
That's right,
Yeah.
and that's why we're addressing lagoons that
So how
are,
does that cost compare? You see, say you got an acre pond,
it's a
cost-
fraction.
yeah.
Yeah, what we try to do is we would like the community, the municipality, to look at this as a long-term deal. We want to go in and help
monthly
them
treatment, or once a year you would come and do it.
reduce the sludge by treating it, get aeration in there, and then treat the whole system on a monthly basis to prevent the sludge buildup to start with, and then continue the bioaugmentation and reduction,
Wow.
sludge reduction.
Right.
And you deal also with, say, waste pits from oil field gas operations? You'll deal with that also?
We
We
do.
do.
Pretty
Yeah.
much the same process, just,
And then
Well-
you, under the watchful eye of DEQ,
Oh,
both
yeah.
Arkansas and
If it's a
Louisiana.
discharge, absolutely.
Yeah, yeah,
Department of
Yeah.
Natural Resources, DEQ, and EPA.
yeah, all have their eyes on it,
Oh,
as
yeah.
they should, that's
Oh,
what
no
we pay
doubt.
them to do.
No doubt.
Correct.
And most of it's pretty standard. They'll have, a set standards that you gotta meet on, and most of
And the
those.
key is to reduce an insult to the hydrology that creates a big oxygen demand. You do that and you kill everything. The
That's right.
benthos, you kill the bottom, you kill the fish,
That's
people
right,
don't
that's right.
realize the critters that live in the mud, it's called the benthos, the worms and grubs and all that, that's where the food chain of life starts. And you can't see that dead, You can see dead fish coming up,
Yeah,
but if dead fish are coming up, you've probably killed your benthos community too, which may take years to recover.
right,
Yeah.
right. We have a wastewater treatment plant in Lafourche Parish that we take care of. And I brought Tom there. We use a picture of it, of the discharge on, in some of our brochures. But the water is crystal clear. And you don't have a whole lot of crystal clear water in Lafourche Parish. you
No.
know, Just because of the muddy bottoms, it's.
Yeah,
where the-
sure.
But it's crystal clear. You can see down to the bottom of this little ditch, and you see all the minnows just sitting there, just waiting.
And the shells.
Yeah,
Wow.
shells and minnows.
Sitting right
and
there.
so, man, it's a marketing tool for our product, but it's also, the benefits of, running a plant correctly and look, being sized right and stuff. And listen, right now, infrastructure on wastewater, is a casualty of, not supporting, some of this
And
stuff.
we pay mega millions to treat our wastewater.
Mhm.
Lafayette's price is probably the highest in the country. We're paying $5 or $6 a thousand, so there's lots of money going to this. So there's no reason why we can't do the right thing.
Right,
And every community is charging for, I guess, wastewater treatment based on how much water is sold to you. Per thousand water is sold.
Mhm. And Harold, I gotta tell you though, that some of the communities out there are on the decline of some of the problems in the neighborhoods are the increase of houses in a neighborhood outside. But some of the communities, they don't have the tax base because they're in decline.
Yep.
And you have these large
Morgan City's
lagoons.
like that, I think.
all the small communities,
Morgan City's gone from 18,000 to 11,000 people in 5 years.
right,
And so the resources are diminishing, so they just don't have the bucks to deal with
That's
it.
right.
The waste is diminishing, but
That's why.
more hurtful is their revenue is diminishing.
That's
Right.
why it's important when you're looking at a $500,000 or $1 million remediation or dredging project that you can look at some alternatives that could be cost effective and can extend the inevitable down the road instead of now.
And then, I guess one alternative, just shut these things down and build new pits. But there's a big cost in that.
There is indeed.
oh, yeah. Yeah,
And a
and
new
getting
standard.
permitted is another thing on those things. It really is, especially for the rural communities, like Tommy was saying.
And
Um,
no one really wants a wastewater pit in their
Yeah,
neighborhood right next to them. That's hard to locate.
Not in my backyard.
Not
is
in
the
my
saying.
backyard.
That's it.
All of a sudden, they want to join the Sierra Club because they're putting a waste pit in their backyard.
Yeah, I tell you. These communities, their kids are growing up, these small communities, rural communities, kids are growing up, going to college, and they're
And then
typically
coming
not
back.
coming back.
No.
Yeah.
And so it's just the tax base is slowing down. So when you have something that can save you 80% of what your initial cleanup was cost was, it's a viable option for some of these
Wow.
rural communities.
And I guess working with LSU, you had to deal with the economic issue. LSU doesn't sell anything, so you have to work out a plan that makes it viable, profitable.
That's right.
Right?
Yeah, yeah, that's.
What the university is not gonna do.
Yeah.
You have to deal with the real world of,
The science was good. The science was great. You know, I mean, it was the best in the world. You know, they had the renowned microbiologist over there studying environmental science issues in the Gulf of Mexico, and but then once you get that technology, then you got to take it to the market it, advertise it, and make sure you can do it within a profitable margin where you can stay alive and continue to clean the environment and continue to stay in business.
they have a deal with, I know certain detergents and everything are a real insult to these little sewer systems. And they have any guidelines if you move into subdivision and say outlying Lafayette and you have a little sewer processing unit, it's probably overtaxed already. The residents should be warned not to use this detergent or that detergent that'll set the whole system backwards.
Yeah, you know,
Do we put out those kind of guidelines?
You know, we take care of several neighborhood subdivision units, and probably the most detrimental thing right now is baby wipes and brown hand towels. I mean, they show up in just
Really?
It's not chemicals.
just jam and pumps. Everything else is so diluted most of the time when it gets to you.
Yeah,
Um,
yeah.
You're okay with that, but for brown towels and baby wipes, they don't dissolve.
They
And
don't.
so
Even if they
just-
say flushable, they do not dissolve.
They got some communities have outlawed them in
Wow.
flushing
Yeah.
and stuff. You know, it's like gotten to the point where used to everybody dumped their oil in the sewer drain when they
Oh,
were
yeah.
changing oils and stuff, and then all of a sudden they realized, hey, that's going to the water.
Right, one
the
quart
sewage
of
plant.
oil will contaminate 250,000 gallons of water. 1 quart of oil.
Wow.
And Harold, every time they have a pump that goes out in a rural community, that's resources taken away from, buying good microbes or getting a good program or just all kinds of other things that take place. But it sure isn't helping the situation.
Wow.
Yeah.
And how, if y'all have any outreach into the Texas region, that's a
Hmm.
big market. And I guess the big cities handle it, but it's the rural communities that.
That's sort of our market, is the rural communities. A lot of times, even like Lafayette, the municipalities, their wastewater plants are under, they've built them big enough where they're not running on 100% capacity. They've got the technology, they've got the engineering and everything. And a lot of times, these small communities, they don't have any of that. They don't have that.
And how do you
luxury.
deal with a community of Youngsville has grown, Broussard have grown so fast. I think Broussard has kept up with it.
Yeah.
But, some of these smaller communities dealing with that waste, because engineering and permits and all that takes a lot of
Oh,
time.
yeah.
Hmm.
And the
yeah.
population is growing faster than they have time to meet that need.
Yeah.
Yeah.
We've taken care of some facilities where they've grown like 4 times the amount of what their plant was designed for, and working with the State Department of DEQ and also the Department of Health and Hospitals. They oversee some of that also, and with their working with hand in hand with them, we have been able to just treat with microbes, and we treat them very healthy. We've been able to take 4 times the amount of people that were designed for that plant and still continue to pass.
Wow.
Give them new capacity.
Yeah, so be able to pass
That's
all their tests
phenomenal.
and stuff.
And
Yeah,
a lot
so-
of this was learned from working with offshore need,
That's right.
part of it.
That's
Yeah,
right.
Yeah.
That was, man, we,
And I think they had 6 tiers, 6 different tanks that it went overflowed and so forth. And the
Mhm.
little home units we use don't have 2 tiers, I think.
that's right.
Yeah.
They do. And then now that some are starting to have, now you gotta have aeration. So if you sell a house and you have a plant with aeration, it's gotta be running, it's gotta have the whoever built the plants.
So that must be tied to utilities.
It is
Before
tied,
utilities can,
Metro code
yeah.
in
ut-
Lafayette.
Yeah, utilities
it might
can
be
be hooked
state
up,
now.
those things have to be inspected.
Right. And then I think, the big thing with the residential is they never had chlorine to disinfect the water before discharge, which That's where your fecal coliform, which is your disease-carrying bacteria, which affects the marine life. You know, the fish eat it. They
And if
get
your
it, we
system
eat
is
it.
not working, you don't know that. You know, you have an overflow to the ditch.
Well, you know it then.
And I think
Yeah.
DQ inspected 100 homes that were a year into this, and 50% didn't work after a year. So what is it, 2 years down the road, you know?
No doubt,
Yeah.
no doubt. I can believe that, you know, and so the expense to the homeowner, you know, and look, that's one thing we've learned in Mexico, and it's sort of interesting that the government doesn't have the funds, or if they have the funds, you know, it's so corrupt. You know, they're doing other stuff with it. The people have taken it into their own hands, where they want the microbes to put in their house, in their
Really?
road, to treat their wastewater, because they want to be a part of the solution.
So if you were dealing with a household in Mexico, what would be their cost for a month of product?
What we've done with the communities is $5 for an ounce of microbes a month. I mean, actually, they get one pack per.
And they
per
get in a little
quarter.
pack, you just dump into
Goes
this.
in the toilet.
Yep.
So it comes in a little bag. It's a resealable bag. You pull it in. You got a dissolvable 1 ounce bag of microbes.
You
in
put
there.
it in the bowl, you
No,
down, now you flush it down.
Just flush it.
You
Yeah,
can
you
flush
flush
it. You can dissolve it and put it in a sink.
Yeah.
You know, if you have some problems where you got grease and scum, soap scum and hair and all kind of stuff, it's not gonna unclog a drain,
Right,
but it will keep it from clogging.
clog it.
And so what we do is each house gets 4 of those a year. So
Wow.
we rotate through the communities. So if you put it in,
So this
and you
is
don't,
$20 a year for each
20
house?
bucks per
Wow.
house.
Yep.
And they were all for it.
And Harold, we're proposing the same thing up at some
Fantastic.
big communities in Arkansas. They have lakes in these beautiful around these beautiful cities
So
that
you
can't
could
swim
do
in.
that with each household in, say, a community of 500 homes
Mhm.
and reduce the Dickens out of the impact in their
We'd be
aeration. plant.
treating that sewage plant. at the
Yeah.
same
Pre-treating
time.
before.
Pre-
it goes.
pre-
And that's the
before-
good thing about the U.S.
This is
It's
so
typical.
cost effective.
Yeah, it's
Yeah.
still going to a wastewater plant on probably 80-90% of the times around here.
Mhm.
Once you do it, it's going to end up in a wastewater plant.
And we do.
So
Harold,
these are small units, and you know, this all went to court, in federal court, and I think coming out of Mississippi ended up with all 35 of them, and of course they want to do the right thing, and so if each household was doing this little pre-treatment, that would improve the Dickens out of their impact on the Vermilion Bayou, so to speak.
100%.
It would.
Wow, yeah.
And the same goes for the lift stations, Harold. We have a bio bead bag that we're putting in the lift stations. It just sits in there, and
Wow.
it emits bacteria.
So it's a form of pre-treatment.
It is,
Yeah.
so that when the plant gets it, they've already got digestion taking place, and
Odor
the-
reduction.
As it flows through the whole plumbing system,
Yes.
it's
Right.
processing as it goes.
and the odor it reduces amazing.
Yeah.
And
Wow.
you know, most of that stuff is H2S gas, which is very corrosive on the
Oh,
pipes,
yeah.
equipment, everything. And so,
Yeah.
and a little bit of science on our product is one of the first things it
This
attacks.
this gas is really toxic, isn't it?
Hell yeah,
H2S.
it
Yeah.
And so our product uses the sulfur out of the waste stream
Oh,
to
wow.
reproduce and create more bacteria. So if you take the sulfur out of H2S, and then all of a sudden you're not dealing with anything that's corrosive, odor, toxic, any of that stuff, and that's odor is the first thing to go when on our product when we use it. For 24, 48, maybe 72 hours, the odor's gone.
Wow.
In a package plant, you could knock the odor out in a day.
That's amazing.
Yeah.
That is amazing.
And listen,
That's-
it's bioaugmentation. You know, it's out there. It's a technology that you know it's available to the common public. Our product is patented, and we've spent a
Say,
lot of money.
you know, could eventually this product end up at Walmart?
Oh yeah,
It could,
oh yeah,
right.
for sure.
Wow.
Or Amazon.
Yeah,
I think we're on
Amazon, right.
Amazon, but yeah.
Right.
So, now it's up to us to market it, and get it out there, let
Yeah,
everybody know.
yeah. Wow. So this has application like 200-foot crew boat, they would want to use that in their system.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
You know, all these,
We have a distributor for our product in the oil and gas market that is very, very successful in moving.
yeah, those
product.
guys want to do the right thing, you know, I mean, they don't want to
One
go to Abbeville to eat oysters and
They're
get
eating
sick
oysters
from,
and hunting and fishing.
because some
That's
boat
right.
hadn't treated the sewage properly.
It's so true, you know.
Absolutely.
You know, a lot of times, you know, they look at these oil wells and oil rigs and stuff, and, you know, some people have gotten sick on oysters and stuff, and typically those guys are put through the ringer
Yeah,
on
right.
what they have to do and how, but then all of a sudden you got some shrimp boats and oyster boats out there that
Don't have anything.
nothing on it, so
No.
when you wondering how,
Yeah, right.
how the stuff got
Mhm.
contaminated, my bet would be it's probably not the guy that's gotta spend.
Yeah, I served on a Coast Guard Board of Inquiry, and we were dealing with the fact that a lot of the tugs, they only recruit 3 or 4 people. They don't have equipment. Let's see if I can get it. You on the air? Can we help you?
Sorry, dude. I'll let you talk.
Yes, EcoLogic.
Yes.
Yeah, I have a few questions.
Shoot.
Joined the show, and the first question is, I heard you talking earlier about the settling agent that settles the toxins to the bottom, and then somehow you remove the sludge. What happens to the sludge when you remove it? I might have missed what you said, but that was my first question.
No, I didn't. You didn't miss
How do you
it. I didn't
dispose
get
of
to
the
that
sludge?
point. So usually, what the sludge is removed from, like a wastewater plant in a drying bed or a filter press or something like that, and typically is going back into into making fertilizer or something. You know.
Oh, wow. I see. Okay, my next question is, after the Macondo or BP oil incident back in 2010, I never heard about any biological agents being used on that oil that went into the Gulf or in any remediation attempts. Can you comment on that, please?
We did some lab testing on it, and but to your point, none was ever used on that on the cleanup. They decided that wasn't the best way to do any type of cleanup. But we did have some samples where we pulled some and brought in we sort of made simulated a marsh with some salt water, some marsh grass, and brought some of the sludge and listened. I was out in a boat. The sludge, oil was about 4 inches thick, orange. It was so strong. I mean, I was so nauseated just like riding in a boat or around it. It really made us sick. We brought it into, actually it was a sort of station like this, but in Homa.
Uh-huh.
And we were doing a show on it. And so we brought it, put it all in that, into an aquarium, put a little aeration in it, simulate the tide movement and stuff. And we stunk everybody out the studio. We put our microbes in there. Within about an hour, the odor was gone, but we were able to reduce 70% of the sludge that came out of that well, and 30% of it, the carbon chains were so long that we didn't have the right microbes for the other 30. So we did some research, and we found some other microbes. And unfortunately, the ones we had found one was salt was toxic to it, and temperature. So we were in the process of trying to find some microbes to get rid of the other 30% when they decided that they weren't going to use biological treatment.
Wow. So,
Can you comment on why they decided not to?
I don't know exactly why. I think, there were a couple of things. A lot of times, if you look at the oil spill up in Alaska, and you look at the one in BP and stuff, really, the long-term contamination is a lot of it's done. What happens is what man has done trying to clean it up ends up being worse than
Yeah.
if we had just let Mother Nature take over
its course.
and do some some simple stuff. But like up in Alaska, they steam cleaned all the rocks and stuff. The little bacteria they did have, because it was so cold up there, they killed it with the steam, a hot steam coming off and so then nothing was ever able to naturally degrade it for a long time. Everybody knows about BP with
Yep. They were dealing with 35-foot tides.
yeah.
So virtually all the oysters are subject to oil, because of the tidal exchange.
Right.
And it ends up going through, but we don't have that tidal exchange in the Gulf, so we have hardly any oysters live that are subaerial that would be subject to oil contamination with oil on the surface. So entirely different world from Alaska.
Yeah, for sure, 100%. And I will tell you, I'll make
Higher temperatures, a higher rate of evaporation. Oils of VOC evaporates readily. And those guys cleaning up the Grand Isle beaches should not have been dealing with wet oil. They should have let it evaporate, let it go, leave it alone until the sun cooked most of it.
Yeah.
You out there breathing, the hottest
Absolutely.
water of the day,
Yeah.
all those evaporating fumes.
Yeah.
You're exposing the dickens out of your crews to benzene and everything else.
I went out in a oyster boat out at Dulac or Cocodrie, I can't remember. And we went, and that's where we pulled the samples from that aquarium. We were on that little show. Somebody from Diane Sawyer's office saw me and called me the next morning asking if we could go do that again. We go out there the next day, and I'm talking like every piece of grass had 4 to 6 inches of 4 to 6 feet of oil wrapped around it everywhere you could see. And so next morning, same oyster boat, same place. We go back in there. We go from Dulac to Grand Isle to Venice, back to Grand Isle, never saw a sheen of oil. A little north wind came in the night
Pushed it all
before,
up.
Blew it
pushed
out.
that off, and we never saw it again.
Wow.
Yeah.
So you had any other issues, Roger, before we hang up?
Yeah, I got one more question, and they all were kind of hitting around this issue. As a Lafayette citizen, should we make an effort to try to get the government, the Lafayette government, to try to use this wherever it's indicated? Is that conceivable, feasible?
Let me share with you a study that was done when we were building new sewer plants in Lafayette. The Sierra Club was very involved in it. We had in a study done in 86, 87, 26,000 unsewered homes in the parish of Lafayette. And I would guess that many of these are still grandfathered in that condition. That's a major problem. And, I think homes like that with your toilet treatment would have an enormous impact, in lowering that impact, fecal coliform going to the bayou. And we know that's an issue for the bayou. It's a continuing issue. So systems aren't working, whatever. And they can identify human waste from animal waste. A lot of times, you got a high fecal count because cows out there in the pasture, but the chemists have a pretty easy time identifying the difference between animal waste and human waste. And most of
Roger.
our problem is human waste.
Roger, and as we mentioned earlier, the communities right outside of town, the small neighborhoods with 200-300 houses, they struggle, and it'd be a good idea if all of them were using the products in there.
They're 7 seconds ahead. Thank you.
All right, sir. Thank you for all those questions. And you go.
Yeah, going back to that, the city of Lafayette, and I know the engineer there very well and stuff, and worked with him for a long time, and they run a great ship over here. We're
Yes,
blessed.
they do. Lafayette's a model
We're
city.
blessed.
We
We're
are
blessed.
much better off, like, Jefferson Parish, the EPA raised their dickens with them because they were dumping their waste into Lake Punch Drain, where everybody swam. So they had great success. They changed the discharge from Lake Pontchartrain to the Mississippi River, where everybody's drinking it, you know. And it was, but I think the EPA really jumped on Jefferson Parish in solving that problem.
Yeah, that's true.
But, you know, you have Shreveport is a combined system, storm drain and sewer drain. So when the big rains come, the sewer plants can't handle it.
Flushes right through.
Flushes right through. I mean, it just, and the same, you know, Cincinnati, Ohio, 2.5 million people.
A lot
and
of
has a
systems are like
combined
that.
system. Now, your individual toilet treatments would be enormous benefit to that system.
Especially for the stuff that gets washed through.
Yeah, the wash through
Yeah.
during big rain events. You just say,
Absolutely.
hey, you're gonna have, you know, big rain events, dump one of them into your toilet, you know.
Some of the rain events will take a system that's 3 times the capacity it was built for. So you're right, you can't even
Yeah, you can't,
sanitize it
you know,
with chlorine.
and a
or
sewer
you
plant
do-
is, you know, it handles, you know, based on temperature and sunlight availability, all of that, you know, so many million gallons of 100,000 gallons, a certain amount. And it can't handle 101% of that, because then you mess up the whole batch.
That's right.
It can go less, but it can't
Mhm.
go more.
Right.
And it's, you know, it's a tribute to the managers who constantly monitor that, make sure that they operate in those plants within their capacity. And Lafayette's very, very, you know, probably as the largest city in the state, we're probably in the best shape.
I agree.
Certainly better than New Orleans and,
The operators make or break us because it's not, we don't like to tell people this is a magic bullet. We like to say we're working in concert with really great operators. Because if they're not working it right, it's not gonna work.
no, that's right, that's right. And that's what some of the, like Louisville, that has been their problem, is getting well-trained people to operate. They have a real good system, but often, you know, getting the people they need to operate properly is tough. And it's a moving target. It's constantly changing.
That's right.
One day you can handle 100,000 gallons, the next day you might be able to handle 50 because there's no sunlight, you know.
Right?
Yeah. Oh, yeah, it's definitely a moving target, as you said, and, you know, and new technology's coming in, and some guys, old school guys, are not,
They're not convinced at all.
convinced.
No.
And listen,
Those boats can't work.
yeah,
I've been doing this for 40
But if
years.
people in Mexico figured out,
Yeah,
come on, if they can
we
figure out,
change,
then
we
then
change
we
a
should
lot
be
of
able to
hearts,
figure it here.
one
Yeah.
heart at a time, Harold.
Wow.
And we're working
And,
with
and
plans.
I'm so ticked of y'all on the program, because, you know, people in 8 parishes are watching this, and
Oh.
hopefully they can learn, you know, and so,
look, and I'll be the first one to say, it's not the end-all, cure-all, and it's not the best thing for every situation, but there are some times where we can bioaugmentation can be a beneficial treatment for wastewater, environmental cleanup, you know, organic
Industrial
issues,
waters.
industrial
and
wastewater.
like, I think we have a problem at one of the racetracks in the area. They must have a lagoon where they dump the horse waste.
Yeah.
We treated some waste at a racetrack in, actually treated a racetrack in New York. And I never knew, I thought the lagoon in the middle was just aesthetics. But they rinse down this track 4 or 5 times a day, and everything goes into the
The
wastewater,
ponds.
into the pond. And so we treated the pond, and it improved the odor, because I mean you got everybody over there betting and gambling. And then we started spraying the tracks, because what was happening, the fecal coliform count was starting to build up in the dirt on the track, getting hoof disease in the horses and stuff, and we were able to spray it, reduce the fecal coliform, and we've got that all documented and stuff, where we were able to reduce the fecal coliform and
From
then
the actual track.
Yeah.
from the actual track.
Just like we treat the
So when
other
the rain
agriculture.
comes, all that would drain into the pond.
Mhm.
That's right. Rain,
Have-
and they
have
rinse
you-
it down like 4 or 5 times a day.
Wow.
So it all just keeps getting rinsed down. It's
Have you all dealt, I know y'all have dealt with some of the chicken operations, have you
Mhm.
dealt with the cattle feeder lots? 'Cause I mean, there are 20,000 cows on 2 acres of land, you know, I'm thinking of Amarillo.
It's relative, it'll work the same. You know,
Yeah.
we'll treat a chicken.
Could you
Chicken litter
cheat,
and-
you know, all these feeder lots, could you treat the soil? so the runoff is, reduced. They have a horrible odor, when you come to Amarillo,
Yeah.
Would this have a favorable impact on the odor issue and all that?
For sure, yeah. It would definitely have an effect on it, eliminate it and stuff. So then all of a sudden it becomes economical for the farmer.
Yeah.
And we haven't done work. I don't know of any. We have
Cattle.
worked some projects, some cattle out in California, where there's no water up there. So
Yeah,
they're
right.
conserving it.
Yeah.
That's what somebody came in down here and was like, man, y'all in the wrong place. Y'all need to be. You got so much water down here. It's
Right.
not really a factor up here where there's no water. It becomes economical, even with the pig and the chicken industry. We learned that so much with the catfish and shrimp, that their margin of profit was so little, they can't spend a dime on anything else.
Right, yeah.
And so they're just strapped, and so then it becomes an environmental issue.
So y'all have dealt with mariculture, with shrimp farms and all that?
Yeah,
Wow.
yeah, we've done it here in the States. We've done it out on the Pacific coast in Mexico, where a lot of the seafood comes from. And I was gonna get Tom a job running the aerator on the shrimp farm out in West.
I have a
Mexico.
license.
Oh, you get to ride a wave runner in
Wave
the
runner.
lagoon all day. So they didn't have an aerator, so they had a kid riding a wave runner, aerating
I
the
think
shrimp
I have
lagoons.
a friend of mine has a home in one of the countries in South America, Colombia, one of on the Pacific coast, and
Yeah.
and talked to him. He had a friend visiting, and he was talking, "What's the economy of your country based on?" He said, "Well, we ship flowers all over the world and shrimp." I said, "Shrimp from the ocean?" "Oh no,
Farms.
all shrimp farms."
Mhm.
And he says, "Where do you shrimp? Or where are they sold?" "All in the U.S."
Oh yeah,
And it just,
Yeah,
why aren't we
Malaysia.
raising shrimp here?
Right.
yeah.
But they have their own waste issues too.
No
you know,
doubt.
And they big issues, deal with disease, white spot and all kinds
Right.
of disease that can hit.
But you bring up runoff from agriculture, and the poultry and swine industry is a big contributor.
Yeah,
And
they
they're
have-
regulated.
19 million hogs in South Carolina and 15 million people.
Exactly.
More hogs than people.
And the only thing that'll get the attention
And
is the
most
odor.
people, waste is treated pretty good, but hog waste is not treated like human waste.
Right.
No,
And your product should be a part of their solution.
for
Absolutely.
sure. We've got case studies where we've worked in pig farms and stuff.
And it's profitable to them because it makes their hogs and poultry healthier. They grow faster. They get their weight faster. They use less food to get the weight faster.
Wow.
And
Oh,
it
yeah.
pays for itself.
Yeah.
We always have to pay for ourselves when we're doing anything.
Right.
Nobody wants to give us money to
Right.
just make it smell better. But
Yeah.
we usually
Wow.
go in and help reduce some kind of cost, whether it be, having more protein going out the door or having less sludge going out the door.
Are y'all aware of firms operating, doing the same stuff you do, say in Mississippi or Alabama or Georgia?
Pretty much, have environmental companies that,
Yeah.
maybe
Not
not
necessarily
specialize
like we
exactly
do.
what we do, but sort of cover as a
Covers
broad
some of the
base.
same
Mhm.
things, right?
Or trying to treat it some other way,
Yeah.
either mechanically or chemically or something like that.
Did your company kind of pioneer that issue in Louisiana? That was kind of or there's other companies
No,
in Louisiana working
actually-
with LSU?
Yeah, there was a guy that came in with LSU before us, that he ended up being the pioneer, probably on commercial bacteria for the world.
Wow.
Yeah, he hit it too, and I think he sold out, but he was very successful, and
Wow.
He
So-
same track.
LSU deserves credit for pioneering
sure.
this whole thing.
Absolutely.
Yeah, and then there's a couple other companies from Lafayette who have gone through the LSU program, studied with their microbiology department, and still, I think they're operating out of North or South Carolina and stuff, and yeah, so LSU's been a big contributor to the environmental science cleanup, the environmental
Wow.
science studies, and which ends up being clean and healthy.
When you think about it, as you broaden the scope of this, then you deal with the dead zone in the Gulf. You're dealing with lots of issues in a very favorable way,
Mhm.
Right.
We create all this crap, so to speak, literally, but there's a way to deal with it.
Right.
Yep.
Yeah.
And then there's I'm drawing a blank on the name, but there's a research center down in Grand Isle,
Lumcon.
Lumcon, with all the universities.
Yeah.
Yes,
And that's
yes.
pretty much their main objective right now is the
Dead zone in the Gulf.
of
Oh, they've
Mexico.
done so much, yeah, they have an annual measurement of it and all that. And
Wetlands research is
yeah,
involved in that.
really.
Yeah, I spoke to one of the former members of that group today, as a matter of fact,
Wow.
talking about it, and that's a big push, dead zones.
Wow.
So the more we can do upstream for reduction of nutrients and
And they, you know, I have the satellite radio in my truck, and I listen to ag radio all the time. I just find it really interesting. But they talk about the new process of fertilization, you know, fertilizer, that uses 80% less fertilizer. And, you know, if you go back 5 years ago, you figure, all right, I need 100 pounds per acre here, or 500 pounds, whatever. And you put it all out. And you know, then you lose it with rainfall and everything else.
Right.
So they start off with the initial treatment might be 15%. And then they've done chemical analysis to know that, you know, it's nitrogen, phosphorus, and potash, that this land needs no nitrogen. So they separate and only putting, you know, potash and phosphorus and not the nitrogen component where they already have all the nitrogen they need.
Right.
And then something like 30 days into the crop, they put another 5 or 10% fertilizer. They end up using about 25% of what they used to use, so 75% less, with a 10 to 15% increase in yield.
I'll be knowing.
So, you know, farmers are very much a part of the internet. I mean,
Oh, yeah.
they are very tied together. So this kind of, when you're using 75% less fertilizer and your yield's going up 10 to 15%, that's going to change the world. That's going to impact.
They figured out
that's
how to
what-
convert the
they figured out,
nitrogen
right,
to
yeah.
stalk instead of the air.
Right. It's like,
Yeah.
you know, I visited one of the big sweet potato farm in Iota, and they farm rice also. And they only use 3 or 4 inches of water, where they used to use 3 or 4 feet where they were pumping it.
Hmm.
They plant rice with a drill, just like wheat, just like it was wheat, on maybe a quarter section that's been completely leveled, no levees. And they put it, and the rice comes up 2 or 3 inches, they put temporary 1-foot levees and just let the rain, very seldom have to pump anything, let the rain kind of fill it up. You know. So, big reduction, big increase in yields, so probably not good for the ducks, but.
No, but the farmers are
Yeah,
keeping
and
up with
that's all
technology.
coming out of California. That's why they have no water. They
Right.
raise a
They're
lot of rice,
having to
and
figure-
so they figured it out. So you have to give it to the ag guys that they're doing things that, you know, are going to reduce the dickens out of how much
Smart.
we take out of the Chico Aquifer,
Right.
and how much, you know, when you dump this wastewater in August so your compounds can get in the field, often that's not real good water. You've got herbicides in it, you got all kinds of nutrients in it, and creates a big oxygen demand during low water periods
Right.
when the bayous are empty, you know. And so all of those environmental pluses that we tend to focus on all the environmental negatives, and miss the points where,
These guys are
and a
doing
lot
really
of
good.
this is economic driven, but that's okay.
Yeah,
You know, it's a win-win for everybody.
for
you know.
sure.
Yeah. So, and you're all part of that, you know, and so I want to thank you. We're getting kind of close to the tail end, and for being here to inform the public about
This was
very
fun.
important
Thank you.
work.
Yeah,
Very
appreciate it.
important, yeah. And hopefully we'll get some tie-in and have people understand that it's very beneficial, and it's great to hear that one of our premier universities in the state was a lead in this. And
For sure. And along with Tulane and UL have also helped us, you know, through the years in research. LSU was in the beginning, and Tulane stayed with us for a long time, and in recent years we've been using UL's microbiology department. So, and Nichols too. I mean, we've leaned on every state university just about.
that's a two-way street. You helping them, you know, academia is an ideal world. Everything works.
Right.
You know, I went through management in college and went right into the Air Force, you know, in my early 20s in a management situation. Wow. This is the real world here. You know, when you talk about firing people, that guy has 8 kids, you know. You
Yes.
really want to fire him?
So true. So true.
So
Same.
y'all are, you're the bridge between academia and the real world.
That's right.
Yeah, so that's super. Thank you all. Thank you so much for being here. You
You're
head back to Arkansas soon?
We are. We have a project in New Orleans for a couple of days. We're going to clean up some water.
Oh,
see
wow.
if we can
Yep.
do a
Is
good
that
job
an
on
industrial waste of some
that.
kind?
It is, yeah.
Wow.
We're going to go.
They've had, you know, they have a big case there on the Harvey Canal that involved Exxon, and it's a pipe yard that they were dumping radioactive material.
Brad, yeah.
Bad case, so.
Thank you.
Thank y'all so much for being on the program, Tom.
This was good.
Matt, yeah.
Good Sunday
real good.
night.
Real,
Oh, yeah.
real good.
Thank you.